Even if most products get forgotten by the media after the review period is done, there are a few that stand out. Gadgets that people still ask about months later. Some that we even decide to hold on to as our daily drivers, and that we get to see age over time. The Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus is one of them. The most popular Android lineup is already due for a refresh, and as the rumors of the Galaxy S20 keep coming up strong, it's never a bad idea to revisit the current flagship and see how well it aged, and especially at a time when we hear rumors that claim that the new flagship is gonna ditch some key features that this phone has. I'm Jaime Rivera with Pocketnow, and this is the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus After the Buzz. Revisiting the Galaxy S10 Plus has been interesting because, well, the S7, the S8, the S9, these were all really good phones, but overshadowed by competitors like OnePlus for the price, the Pixel for its camera, and even Samsung's own Galaxy Note for the added features. The thing about it is, the Galaxy S10 Plus for me was a different animal. By contrast, it actually won most of its comparisons, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that this phone gets a ton of things right. The hardware, for example, played a key role. It's as if Samsung listened to its customers and did something about it. Consumers always care about how a phone will look after months or even days of use, and unless you pick the black variant, every other color Samsung offered handled fingerprints well. This prism white variant doesn't need a case to look clean, and the chrome accents on the side aged really well, even after a minor fall into ceramic. I did mostly use this phone with a transparent case from Spigen just to avoid any potential drama, and I think this hardware aged well. This phone could seriously pass as new if seen on a table. Consumers want a large screen, but they don't want a heavy phone that's hard to handle. And I don't know what voodoo Samsung did here, but this has been the lightest, most comfortable phablet that I've used in all 2019. Samsung shed 14 grams off the weight, and I do feel the distribution changed because this phone feels impossibly light to hold and handle. And as a result, it was a pleasure to use, handle it with one hand, and even if I did drop it once, it wasn't while I was handling it. And since we're talking displays, consumers also want the best of the best for their money, and even if we heard all the talk from Apple of their 2 million to 1 contrast ratio on the iPhone 11 Pro lineup, thing about it is that actually launched originally with the dynamic AMOLED that was included in the Galaxy S10 Plus 6 months earlier. Samsung continues to be king of displays, so much so that if any other company wants to compete, they use a Samsung panel. Color reproduction is on point, brightness is class-leading in direct sunlight, and content consumption is on point thanks to the loud dual-firing speakers and the headphone jack. Naturally works with Android, but it's also not better at it. Really, my only complaint is the durability of the glass. Over time, it got a few nicks and scratches that are hard to hide, and then there's the problem that you can't really use a screen protector because of the ultrasonic fingerprint scanner. Now, probably the most requested feature from consumers is that they want the camera on their smartphone to be as good as the company claims it is, because let's face it, every company claims that their phone takes great photos. Very few achieve it. The Galaxy S10 Plus wasn't necessarily my favorite in this department, but it definitely landed in my top 5 for 2019 with results that are still good today. Samsung's approach to photography matured a lot with the Note 9, with less saturated color and a more accurate depiction of what the eye could see. The company wasn't the first to include a night mode on its flagships, but I find its results to be the brightest in certain scenarios. Maybe even too bright in some cases with overblown results, but hey, at least you get the option. Samsung was also a tad late to embrace the versatility of a triple camera array, and this being the first device with an ultra-wide, I must say distortion from the camera was definitely not my favorite. Still, we have to remember this ultra-wide is that special camera that allows the super steady video that many praised. I honestly preferred to stick with the standard video because it films in 4K and it also allows you to switch between focal lengths, and stabilization was just as good. And you also have to remember this is the first smartphone to provide 4K video from the selfie camera, and for me that was huge. You can match this with almost any microphone thanks to the 3.5mm headphone jack, and seriously, this is an ideal phone for vlogging. Even the field of view of the selfie camera allowed for some good selfies, selfie portraits, and this continues to be one of my favorite portrait mode smartphones because you have a lot of options to modify after the fact. Last but not least, consumers in search of a flagship don't necessarily always want to upgrade every year, so having future-proof internals is rather important. The Galaxy S10 Plus still has a great processor even a year later, and there's good enough RAM, lots of storage that's expandable, its battery is still one of the largest in its category, there's reverse wireless charging, and it is also IP rated. Now, this is where things get a little spotty because an engine is really only as good as how well it performs. And, One UI 2.0 is, cleaner and slightly faster than its predecessor, but notice I said slightly. The amount of animations in the user interface is seriously unnecessary, and sure, you can go deep into the settings and disable these or make them faster, but just try to teach that to the average consumer this phone targets, and you'll know why people get frustrated. Some seriously just want to get to the search menu, and the load times of this command alone are very slow. I feel that it gives users a bad first impression, which is not necessarily the real deal if you try to play any game and notice how powerful this phone is. I mean, I would call this one of my favorite powerhouses that just needs less fluff to not look slower than it really is. And then there's the topic of how long it takes Samsung to update their phones precisely because of One UI. It really makes you question why it exists if it doesn't really add value, but I wouldn't go as far as to say that. It does provide some nifty shortcuts from the Edge menus. We received the dark mode way before Google baked it in, and I'm a huge fan of having my company accounts on secure folder to not have to sync these accounts to my phone with everything else. I mean, there are still things this phone can do that Google hasn't even brought to the market. And then another one of the reasons why I've complained about bloat in the software is really how it impacts endurance, but this phone is actually the exception. I feel that it's gotten even better with its battery life. I feel that software has probably improved over time, and you can definitely tell you can now get more than a day of battery life just fine. To conclude, I guess the biggest question left is not just if the Galaxy S10 Plus aged well, but also if you should consider the hot deals that will continue to emerge as the Galaxy S20 gets announced. The answer is actually quite complicated because this phone on its own is good enough. If the Galaxy S20 wasn't a couple of weeks away from being launched, I would say that this phone is definitely a good buy as it is. I mean, the looks are here, the internals are here, the screen is here, the camera is sort of here. My biggest concern really is the software. Samsung is notorious for going from slow to a complete crawl the older the product gets when it comes to software updates, which is not a good thing. If it were up to me, I'd wait for the announcement to make up my mind. Sure, saving money is great, but you have to keep in mind that if you're planning to keep this phone for more than a year, it might be a better idea to spend a little more money and then have a future-proof phone that will actually last you an extra year. Again, it all depends on what your needs are. Let us know what you think about the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus after the buzz in the comments down below. And while you're at it, follow us on social media, subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. Also follow me on my personal handles to see me play around with these phones. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like what you saw. I'm Jaime Rivera. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.